Hi and welcome to NWTV.biz. We make online corporate interview videos for Northwest UK business. This is a regular show highlighting forward-thinking successful companies in our area. We have massive social media reach and all our videos are highlighted on YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn and bookmarking sites like StumbleUpon and Dig and many others. We have 2 studios, a relaxed couch setting or a green screen, and the latest video editing technology to add logos and other details to the production. In each episode, every guest must give us a top tip so we can all benefit from what's working for them. So if you're interested in our services, get in touch. NWTV today welcomes Clare Maass of Maass & Co Chartered Accountants based in Hoylake. She has 20 years experience with clients ranging from owner-managed to multinationals and now has her own practice set up in September 2011. She is very familiar with the challenges faced by new business owners. Welcome back to NWTV.biz. We're here today with Clare Maass, a Chartered Accountant with Maass & Co Accountants. Welcome to NWTV, Clare. Tell me, did you always want to be an accountant?
Funnily enough, no.
Really? Why is that?
I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but what I did want was to live in London.
Really?
So I was at Manchester University, and at the time, accountants were employing a third of all graduates.
Really?
So I thought, I can get a job in London. So I applied to become a chartered accountant trainee in London, and then I moved down. And started my training.
What were you doing at Manchester University originally?
I did a physics degree.
A physics degree?
Yeah.
Wow. What made you want to do that?
I found it easy at school.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of physics was it?
Largely nuclear towards the end, yeah.
So you can be a rocket
nuclear
science.
and atomic physics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So now you have your own business
I do,
in Hoylake, Maass & Co. Okay. And since you became an accountant, you've worked for some very big firms, haven't you?
That's right. I started off in a medium-sized firm, and when I say medium, you're talking probably about 50,000 employees worldwide.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, but then I moved into what is now the Big Four, which are considerably larger, and so I worked for 10 years at KPMG.
KPMG?
Yeah, first of all in London, then I moved up to Liverpool, and then 10 years at Ernst & Young in Liverpool.
Wow, and what sort of things were you responsible for?
At Ernst & Young I was head of department for tax in the Liverpool office.
Okay.
So there was a department to run, there was staff to manage, and I also had a portfolio of clients, and my clients were mainly large multinationals, such as Tetra Pak, Prince's Foods. Wow. And a number of other smaller ones.
Okay, and they had an international tax, did they? Is that different from UK tax?
Yeah, it's very much different, because when you're looking at a multinational, you're looking initially at the UK part of a much wider business. Okay. So, for example, you would look at the end of the year, they prepare their numbers for the year and they have to report them to their head office, which could be in Japan, for example, or Germany, certainly another country. So our role would be initially to plan the year end to ensure that we took the maximum relief for tax, and then we would help them with reporting their numbers to the parent company. And when you report overseas, you're using different accounting standards to the ones we use in the UK. Okay. And then we would then look at purely the UK numbers and prepare the UK statutory accounts with all the tax numbers in them.
Gosh, are you good at maths?
Yes, I am. But strangely enough, you don't have to be a maths whiz to be an accountant. You have to be what I call numerate. Numerate. So you have to have a good feel for numbers. Okay. Yeah. And be able to work with numbers. But there's an awful lot of accountancy and tax work which is based on legal.
Okay, so you have to be a bit of a lawyer as well.
Yeah. I mean, particularly with tax, because tax is derived from tax legislation. Okay. So we tend to spend quite a lot of time with our noses in books. Reading tax legislation.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So why the move from these large multinationals to your own business? Why did you?
There comes a time in the life where you want to have a change.
Really?
And it was a time where I had to decide: do I want to do this in this big organisation for the rest of my working life, or shall I do something different?
Okay.
So I decided to set up my own practice.
Okay.
And it is very different from what I was doing before.
Really? In what way?
Very different market. I'm working with the SME market, so small and medium-sized businesses. And largely I'm based in Wirral, so most of my client portfolio now is in Wirral Peninsula.
Okay.
Up to Chester and some in Liverpool as well.
Okay, super. So what would you say is I mean, I find that the accountants now, the more successful ones, have more of an eye on the person's business as much as the numbers. Is that where your firm's going?
I think a good accountant should understand the business that the client has, and also you need to look wider. You need to understand the client's more personal circumstances. If you look at a typical business, it may be family run, family shareholders, and you need to understand the relationships between the people. You need to understand what the aspirations are for the business in order to be able to advise effectively. So it's not just like my old job where I only needed to understand the business. Now I need to understand the shareholders and what they
the individuals,
and what their financial circumstances are.
And that can make a difference to them.
Massively, yeah. I mean, I could give good tax advice to somebody when we're coming up perhaps to the end of the tax year. I always look at my portfolio, I'll talk to my clients. And what I'm looking to do is to ensure that they pay the minimum amount of tax by using basic tax planning, which is usually about timing of when you extract money from a company around the end of the tax year. Okay. Now, basic tax planning can save you up to 25% of your tax bill. And in a company, the tax bill is 20% of the profits. So if you can save a quarter of that, it's a significant uplift in the amount of money in the company. However, I can give good tax advice, but it may not suit that person to take the advice. I may say to them, delay taking money out of the company until after the 5th of April. But they may need that money, so they may want to take it anyway, and then we can explore things a bit deeper. So
there's an intrinsic value between the two.
Yeah,
right, I see. One of the questions, now that we have an accountant on the show, I wanted to ask that a lot of smaller businesses, one of the questions they often ask is, how do I price my business? I mean, because a lot of people were coming from hobbies, perhaps they've made their hobby into the business. What advice would you give people to price themselves correctly?
First of all, do good market research.
Okay.
Most businesses will be able to do market research to see what their competitors are doing. And then if they feel that their product is worth more, they then have to think about how they differentiate their product from the other products on the market.
What's their USP as such,
Yeah, I think so. And of course, in the early stages, it's a case of building up reputation. So you may not be able to charge the higher prices initially, but once your reputation's established and you have testimonials, you can then start to look to actually sell the value adding that you're putting into your product.
And word of mouth is just, it makes you feel so confident, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's the most valuable form of marketing, word of mouth.
Great.
The other thing I would say is do a business plan.
Okay.
Yeah. People tend to think that they only should do a business plan if they're looking for grant funding or for bank funding.
Yeah.
But really the business plan is a tool for you and your business. You can project what you expect your expenses to be. You can project what your income is based on the prices and the volume of sales that you're going to make. And that will give an indication of whether your pricing is sufficient to give you the profits that you would expect.
Oh, I see. No, I know small businesses change a lot in the first couple of years, and my business plan has changed. If I went to it today, I find things I'd like to change about it. So, that's normal for most people.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. When you're setting up in business, particularly for the first time, the business plan, with the best efforts, will be a guess.
Yeah.
And as you learn more about your business and you learn more about your market, the business plan does need to be revised.
Yeah.
I would say for a business that's in the early stages of setting up, and certainly for the first 2 years, the business plan should be looked at least on a quarterly basis and revised.
Right.
When a business is more established, I think you can put that back to an annual review.
Yeah, yeah.
But certainly if you're in the early stages, or you're in a time in your business where you're going into a next phase of growth perhaps, that business plan can become a very effective tool.
Right. Okay. Well, I change mine constantly. Small businesses follow the money, don't they? That's something that they do.
But presumably your business has changed a lot from how you originally planned it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
As you've grown to understand the market that you're operating.
Well, I was so proud of my first business plan, and then 6 months down the line I was like, that old plan's rubbish, this is the new one. So.
But it was good at the time.
It was good at the time, yeah. It's always as good as it is on the day. Yeah. Okay, so everybody comes on our show, gives a top tip. What top tip have you got for us?
Lots to choose from in tax.
I can imagine.
Lots to choose from. At the moment, there are a lot of new businesses starting up. My top tip would be get some advice from an accountant very, very early on when you're planning your business.
Okay, before you've even registered.
Before you start trading, talk to an accountant about whether you would be better off setting up as a sole trader, a partnership or a limited company.
Right.
Depending on circumstances, it's quite often better to set up as a sole trader initially.
Okay.
There may be that you have tax losses in the first period or two. Okay. Particularly if you have a high level of expenditure on equipment.
Okay.
And maybe vans, that type of thing. And you can, if you've had employment and paid tax, you can use those losses and claim a tax refund.
Okay.
Which you can't do if you've got a company.
Ah.
So it may be advisable to get somebody to look at your business plan, assess whether you're likely to have tax losses, and then make the decision about whether to go down the sole trader route or the limited company.
That's good advice.
You can incorporate a business later. So maybe after a couple of years when you're getting steady profitability, incorporate then, because once you've got decent profits, you do get more money after tax out of a company than you do as a sole trader.
That's great advice, because when I set up, I set up my bank account as a sole trader, and then they couldn't change it to a limited company. Yeah. So now I get letters saying, well done, you're doing well in business from one account, the other one saying you've put no money in because it's a sole trader account, which is really crazy. Yeah. Okay, so that's top tip. Yeah. Anything else?
The top tip there, again, it may well be because of the type of business you do and the customers that you have, that the limited company is really the only commercially viable structure for you. Okay. Particularly if you're working with bigger businesses, they may often expect you to be a limited company because it gives them more comfort.
Right.
Yeah. So the tax advice may be contrary to the commercial advice then.
Oh, I see, okay. Yeah.
So don't base your decision purely on the tax.
Super. Yeah. Now, in previous conversations with yourself, you've given me some great advice about flat rate VAT, which can actually save you quite a bit of money.
Can save you quite a bit of cash.
Okay,
it doesn't work for everybody.
Right.
Again, you need to understand the business and to take a look to see if flat rate VAT would work. Essentially, most people try and avoid VAT registration for as long as possible. Okay. At the moment, the VAT threshold is £73,000 turnover. It's going up to 77. With flat rate VAT, it may well be worth looking at voluntary registration. Mm-hmm. So even if your turnover is significantly lower than the threshold, consider it, because you then would charge VAT on your sales, but you wouldn't pay all that VAT over to HMRC because you use a flat rate percentage on your sales.
Okay, so you might be 15% and you're pocketing the 5%.
Yeah. I think for printers it's something like 9% and a bit.
Oh, so
depends on the business. There's a list on the HMRC website.
Oh, so.
Now, as I say, it doesn't apply to all people. It doesn't work for everyone.
Right.
If you've got a business where you've got very high overheads, flat rate won't work. So you're looking for businesses with a profile of very low overheads compared to the sales.
Okay, so that would be a lot of sort of small businesses, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
and they would benefit from the flat rate.
Yeah, and you can use it up until your turnover is £150,000. It's designed for small businesses to make their VAT returns simpler.
Right, okay.
It's to help them and to help them with their cash too.
Fantastic. So you work out of Hoylake?
I do.
So whereabouts are you in Hoylake?
I actually work from home.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a hard decision because I've always worked in big offices, and I thought maybe as an accountant I should have my own offices. Okay. But really, there isn't a great deal of footfall for the cost of having an office. Okay. And if I had an office, I'd have to have a receptionist.
Right, yes, of course.
So for early stages, I'll work from home. I've got 2 rooms there, one for meetings, one for working. Yeah. And later on, at the point when I'm taking employees, I will reconsider.
Okay. As soon as you get as big as KPMG, perhaps.
No, that's not the intention. I don't want my old job.
But you do a lot of networking, don't you?
Yeah,
you get yourself out and about and see clients a lot. So.
Because of the clients that I had in my old job, I was then going to be now working in a completely different market, and I was unknown in that market, and I didn't know anyone either. Okay. So in that sense, it was starting from absolute zero. So what I did was really get out there and meet people, and networking is the best way of doing that. Really? So I tried all the different networking groups around. I tried most of them a few times, and started to get to know people quickly. And it's amazing what a small world it is out there. You start to see the same faces, and it starts to become a very comfortable and pleasant thing to do. Right.
So overall, you say that opening up your own business and starting from scratch has been a challenge, or has it been really enjoyable, or were there times when you were thinking, what am I doing?
I always knew it was going to be a slow start for me because, as I say, I didn't know anybody and they didn't know me. So I had no reputation in the market that I wanted to operate in. So I knew it was going to be a slow start, and it was a slow start because, particularly with accountants, you're asking for people to take on a long-term engagement. It's repeat business, and it's a position of trust. Sure. Yeah. So I didn't really expect to get a great deal of business in the early months, and I was right.
Okay. Right.
But then suddenly, with getting to know people, getting reputation within the market, the work started to come, and it's flowing nicely now.
Yeah, sure. It's word of mouth,
it's building well, yeah.
And of course, with the experience, 20 years with Ernst & Young, KPMG, that's got to be very useful for you.
Yeah, it is, because it differentiates me from other people.
Super. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if you want to get in touch with Clare, her email address and website will be on the screen right now. So get in touch. Cheers.